girls, especially in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area. So about 4 hours ago, I went to the store, I came back out to my car, and there was a note under my car door handle.
Thank you to all the folks who tagged me in yet another trafficking conspiracy theory video. I just spent the last couple of hours going down a rabbit hole of DEA statistics and peer-reviewed transdermal toxicology studies. And I'm super excited to share it with y'all and debunk this video.
I've seen TikToks before, and I was like, I know that you're not supposed to touch a note or anything left on your car because it could be a trafficking.
So this young woman is claiming that she came out to her car, found a note tucked under the door handle, and she was afraid of touching it because she'd seen TikToks warning her that this might be a sign that she was going to be trafficked. Once again, demonstrating how effectively social media spreads moral panic. Here's the note. Pause if you want to zoom in and read it. I shamelessly called this number, and it is a Fort Lauderdale number, but it says it's disconnected. I don't mean to be overly suspicious, but I don't know whether someone named Steven actually left this note or if this whole story is fabricated. So first off, let's make it clear, human trafficking does not happen via stranger abduction in public places. And it definitely does not happen like this. She claims she only touched the note briefly, through her shirt sleeve, and through a napkin. But she did touch the door handle and immediately had a reaction.
In 2 minutes, my hand started tingling and I started feeling lightheaded. And I was like, no way. Like, there was seriously something on that.
I mean, girlfriend, no way is right. No way. So her belief that briefly touching the door handle that had this note on it caused her to get a tingly feeling in her arm and become lightheaded, enough to go to the urgent care. She doesn't say what substance she thinks she encountered.
Go to urgent care. So I did, and they actually helped me call 911.
And she conveniently glosses over what the physicians at the urgent care had to say. But that's okay, because I did a little digging. Because this is a common conspiracy theory on TikTok. The traffickers are going to leave something that's either laced with fentanyl or GHB roofies. You're going to touch it while trying to get into your car. You're going to rapidly absorb that substance through your skin, become incapacitated in a public parking lot. And then traffickers are going to snatch you and sex traffic you. Let's take fentanyl first. You're not going to get high, much less get a toxic dose from handling fentanyl. Some helpful info from UC Davis. It is a common misconception that fentanyl can be absorbed through the skin, but it's not true for casual exposure. You cannot overdose on fentanyl by touching a doorknob or a dollar bill. The one case is with a prescribed fentanyl skin patch. Even then, it takes hours of exposure. So then I looked up GHB, which has to cross into the bloodstream via the digestive system, aka taken orally. I did find one 2019 BuzzFeed article claiming that it can be toxic when used as a suppository. Again, digestive system to bloodstream, not transdermally. By the way, you have to ingest between 1 to 2 teaspoons of GHB to have an effect. That's about 1 to 5 grams. I appreciated this explanation from a recovery center about all the factors that impact absorption through the skin. Your palms are one of the least effective places for transdermal absorption due to skin thickness. So where does this particular moral panic come from? Would you be shocked to find out that this false information is perpetuated by the cops? Hey, look, this also originates in Florida. Officer Courtney Bannock put on a very dramatic show of losing consciousness after she believed she briefly touched fentanyl. Other claims by cops, this one in San Diego, were vigorously discredited by physicians. You can't just touch fentanyl and overdose. And yet this fakery got folded into the moral panic around trafficking.
Over 4 hours later, my arm is still like very tingly from my shoulder all the way down my arm, like to my fingertips. Like, it's just still completely tingly. And I feel okay, but I'm just a little freaked out. You hear about this stuff happening all the time.
But Olivia claims that even 4 hours later, she's still having symptoms. Her arm still feels numb and tingly. So what's going on here? This is where I had a good time nerding out in the literature. And I learned a new term, a culture-bound syndrome. So what is this cop-originated culture-bound syndrome? Alleged overdoses have been cited as examples of the nocebo effect, where inaccurate beliefs about a drug generate negative somatic effects upon exposure. The false belief that one has received a substantial dose can produce very real and distressing symptoms. Obviously, I'm not a medical professional, but it's just not physically possible for Olivia to have these symptoms based on briefly touching her door handle where a piece of paper once sat. The nocebo effect is when a patient's negative expectations elicit symptoms, negative symptoms. This moral panic around human trafficking is a fascinating psychological phenomenon, clearly eliciting somatic or somatoform symptoms in folks who buy into it when there is no real danger at all. Trafficking does not happen this way. This is a paranoid conspiracy theory. Trafficking happens to young, vulnerable people via grooming by someone that they know, not protected white women being kidnapped out of public parking lots through laced notes on their door handle. But you can see the real detrimental effects of women who buy into this nonsense.
So I just wanted to say, like, be careful, because that was with me touching the note for 1 to 2 seconds maybe. And I can't imagine if there was a girl, you know, that like didn't know that this happens and they took it out.
Women, we don't have to be held in the grip of this kind of fear and anxiety. We don't have to be held captive by our paranoid delusions that can clearly manifest real physical symptoms, waste our resources, our energy, and rob us of our peace. When we learn how trafficking happens, who the potential victims are, we don't have to keep getting hoodwinked by conspiracy theories that originate in the alt-right, that keep us in a constant state of fear, where we are more easily controlled, and where we're unnecessarily fearful of our community. Okay, by now everybody's seen that video of that young woman in Florida who claims that she handled a laced note that was left on her car door handle. This video right here. And I made a 5.5-minute reply video to it yesterday, which is currently pinned at the top of my TikTok, and you can go watch it. That video has been pretty suppressed, I think because I used this word, end tunnel fae, explicitly several times in that video. This comment was left on the original creator's video, and it was repeated many times. Folks asked, what substance could you touch for 1 to 2 seconds that would create hours worth of tingling up your arm and lightheadedness, as that creator claimed happened to her? And many comments said, King Ivory, Goodfellas, He-Man, Tango and Cash, whatever you want to call it, could have legitimately caused this reaction. Again, she claims that there was a note on her door handle. She didn't touch it directly with her skin. She touched it through her shirt and then through a napkin, and then touched the door handle of her car itself. She believes this note was proof that someone was trying to incapacitate her in order to sex traffic her. This is a common moral panic, a common conspiracy theory on social media. And I would like to quickly debunk this claim that Tango and Cash can do this to you. This is from UC Davis. It is a common misconception that end tunnel fae can be absorbed through the skin, but it is not true for casual exposure. You cannot overdose from it by touching a doorknob or a dollar bill. This is not the pathway through which that drug works, but it's clearly a commonly held erroneous belief. You need only look at that video and look at all the comments like this one. So where does it come from? Would you be shocked to hear that this urban legend originates with the cops? It's pure propaganda. One of the most famous cases is Officer Courtney Bannock. She faked passing out, said she was choking and couldn't breathe because she touched some powder that she believed was Tango and Cash. There have been multiple instances of cops flopping like this, more dramatically than soccer players, pretending that they pass out and have exposure. They've been overdosed by briefly touching this substance. And as you can see here, these claims have been roundly rejected by physicians. These have been universally debunked, but cops still keep making these false claims. This is such a widespread moral panic that it's actually been studied. This was a really fascinating journal article. Police reports of accidental end tunnel fae overdose in the field, correcting a culture-bound syndrome that harms us all. This article is about how harmful it is for cops to falsely claim that they are overdosing by briefly coming into physical contact with Tango and Cash or with people who are using it. The article goes on to explain that this fakery by cops presents serious obstacles to addressing the overdose crisis. It falsely transforms overdose emergencies, which require rapid response to prevent death in the user, into perceived life and death situations for first responders. It perpetuates the stigma that people who use illicit opioids are inherently dangerous to encounter and that their bodies and belongings are poisonous. It perpetuates the falsehood that officers could die from contact with a substance they routinely encounter in the field. This is profoundly stressful to officers as well as users. Alleged overdoses have been cited as examples of the nocebo effect, where inaccurate beliefs about a drug generate negative somatic effects upon exposure. The false belief that one has received a substantial dose can produce very real and distressing symptoms: panic, hyperventilation, vertigo, racing heart, lightheadedness, tingling arms. These are often misrecognized as evidence of this drug's known effects. Again, what we have here is the nocebo effect. Patient has negative expectations and they anticipate negative side effects from a medication, in this case, Tango and Cash. So they believe that they experience the side effects of that medication. The nocebo effect is said to occur in someone who falls ill owing to the erroneous belief that they were exposed to a physical phenomenon they believe is harmful, such as this instance here. So I hope that helps set the record straight. I hope the OP takes down her video, because all she's doing is perpetuating a harmful conspiracy theory.